jednostko fiziko.
Potom ste v tme v kamere.
OK. Dobre, môžeme? Takže vítam vás po prázdninách na ďalšom seminári Robotika SK. No a dnes máme hostia, ktorý je z Kolumbie, ale pôsobí v Českej republike v Olomouci. No a je autorom takéhoto pekného robota a myšlienky, ktorá stojí za ním a ktorá vlastne má za cieľ vzdelávať deti v robotike a získať ich pre túto oblasť. To je presne to, čo by sme radi. Volá sa Camilo Parra Palacio a teda zvyšné vám prosím.
Ďakujem. Thank you. Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here because I always like to do this presentation, and usually I'm more into going to schools, but now I'm in front of very technical people, so I can really talk about engineering stuff and more into the things that make the robot work. So today I'm gonna present you this robot that I started 3 years ago in China. So to tell a little bit about me, I'm born in Colombia, as Andre said. I study product design engineering, which is industrial design. I don't know if you guys teach this here, but it's like industrial design, which is how does it look a product outside, and engineering that we all know, but more into the mechanical. So it's combining these two. But my career wasn't really focused into robotics. The thing is I always loved robots, but at that time there was no career to study, at least in Colombia. There was one, but it was very into industrial stuff, and I always wanted to do roles by myself, but I didn't know how. So that's why I started this project 3 years ago, but I will tell a little bit behind how I actually get to learn all of this and start this project. So the presentation is called Build Your Own Robot. First, I want to talk why are robots important? So I want everybody to think why are robots important? Maybe all of you, because you're here in the Fab Lab, already have the answer, but I wanted to broaden a little bit the conversation. So because this is a presentation I do also to people that is not very technical, they see robots as a threat, they see robots as they are scared or something that is just to help in the household, but of course robotics is as a broad thing, and I make them think, okay, what is it good for? Is it only for clean your floor? Is it for manufacturing cars? Is it good for play or for education, or just something that it will take your job in the future? And then this is why I see that robots are very important, or robotics, to learn robotics, because you can see in this graph you have here the rate of change of evolution, let's say in technology, and then the time. So let's say in last century, we are humans were able to understand the technology that we have in front. Sort of. It wasn't something that really required more than a life to really learn or understand how it works. The technology before, it was very easy to follow. But now, few years ago, with all this boom of artificial intelligence and IoT and lots of technologies that now make it more complex, even in our own cell phones, it's very difficult for us to really catch what is happening, and that's a problem, because that means that we have something in our hands that we don't really understand. But there's a solution for that, and it's if with education or with learning, you can kind of compensate that difference between the technology that we have these days and what we can do with it. So I'm gonna break a little bit the ice. As I said before like I do this presentation, and most of the people don't raise their hands. Have you ever built your robot? Can you raise your hands? Like, yeah, the majority. So like, maybe for you guys it's not so important this presentation, but I know this is to show you why it's important to learn to build a robot or to build one. As I say, the best way to avoid replaced by a robot is to become the robot maker. When you are the robot maker, then you will have a job, I mean, technically, right? So the problem there was that before you needed to be an engineer to really learn to build a robot. Even I was an engineer, I mean, when I started engineering, but I wasn't able to build a robot at the time. And I found out that the reason is because you don't have the tools, the right tools in front of you. Once you have the right tools in front of you, you can make a robot in 1 hour, right? And then I took this concept, I was like, oh, well, like more people can learn. And then coming back to the graph we saw before, then more people can really, our society can keep up with technology if we learn how they work. So just starting with a basic example like this, is more robot, but this concept can be applied in a larger scale. And that's why I started creating Otto, even though I had some robot creations before. This was the idea that people need to learn how to build their own robot. Myself, I wanted to learn how to build a robot, you know. So I have been talking about Otto, but who is Otto? So Otto is an interactive robot that anybody can make. As you can see, it's a very small robot, and I made it 3D printable, so like more people can make it themselves. This is to show you a little bit how was the process of me creating Otto. So because I have a product design background, industrial design, at the beginning I would make these ones, just concepts. They didn't work actually, because then I found out that actually to create a robot you really need to know how it works. Like many things in design are like that, but sometimes industrial design, I mean, you are gonna design a dish. I mean, you really don't need much experience to design a dish. I mean, you just need to create stuff. But with a robot, you're talking about mechanics, electronics, and the programming. So it's like 3 areas that actually require some experience. But nevertheless, I tried my best. I started to combine with some toys, and finally I make some prototype here, which was still very normal. But as you can see the pattern, I was just going wheels to wheels, you know? That's the basic. And many people were telling me, is that really a robot? Because it looks like a car. And I realized that a robot, like this conception that people have in general, is like robot kind of tends to look like a human, because if you see like the robot world created, like was it by this Czech guy, it was the image that they have of this Rose Robotics, you know, it was like a human foil in metal basically. So like then I realized that maybe I should have created that. I was just afraid of like having more complicated things that I wasn't aware. But then I found out this open source world, and I started to learn much faster. And I was like, well, then maybe I can create, with my experience in industrial design, I can create a robot that more people can make and doesn't have messy cables outside. This was like, and then some people can relate to it. These were also 2 robots that I actually created 1 year before Otto, and they were a Kickstarter campaign. The cool thing about this robot, it was like for kids to learn coding from 4 years old. Robot, it's using RFID cards, so you put on the head and you could like do tangible programming with it, which is a concept that I will bring back to Otto someday. But then I jumped, again, it had wheels, and then I decided like it would be better to have the legs to make it a little bit more appealing. So what can Otto do? So the very basic one, Otto DIY, it can make sounds, it can walk, avoid obstacles with the ultrasound eyes that are not really eyes. And then you can program with Arduino or even like some basic blocks. And then where people like asking me like, hey, why is not Bluetooth? And then we started to grow up from there. So here I brought Plus, which is the same as the one that I just explained it, but it has some like additional features. So it has metal motors to make it stronger. It has a touch sensor here. So like, as you see now it's reacting, and now it's gonna do like some random dances. So the robot can dance because it has 4 servo motors, and they are synchronized, so like they make all these smooth movements, and it has more than 20 movements. Has 12 gestures, so the gestures are like a combination of nice sounds that relate with the movement, so you can create some sort of like, when it's happy, then it makes certain explosions. So now I'm gonna try to connect it to Bluetooth, because that's like the most important feature that it has. It also has another mode which can detect the sounds and make different things. Let's connect it to Bluetooth. So we have this app. We make an app inventor, very DIY, but it works for the purpose. Just takes some time. We also created then, after that many people were like, oh wait, it only has 2 legs. And it was just to make it more simple to build. But then people, I mean, once you learn the basic, then you want to continue. And I thought that we should continue this learning curve. So then we created humanoid. And humanoid is also the same as the other one, but it does more stuff. So now I connect it, and I can control it with the app. And for example, I can make expressions like he's sad, so like he does this, and then he goes like that, or like if he's happy, and then he has this movement. So it's kind of also trying to make it emotional. So like people can like also see that robots can have like maybe feelings, or like can have an interaction more human with the people. Let me see. So as I was mentioning before, it's truly open source hardware. So like when I was getting into this world of open source, I found out that there's a lot of fake open source, and the problem is because I don't know, maybe people just want to use it as a marketing slogan. Oh, I'm open source, like buy from me, and then you try to find the files, and not even the files are there. I guess many of you are familiar with the term. I have this comparison also for people that are not familiar with open source, and I have this very funny example, which is like, what is really open source? Like, let's compare it with an open recipe, like a goulash soup or something. So like, the first thing you have to do is access to all source, which is like, actually most of the people do it, but not completely. Then like, that means that you share the recipe online. You know, you just put like, oh, I have this nice goulash, and then you put it online, so then more people can see your source. But then there are these 3 that not many people follow, which is like no vendor lock. It's a little complicated, but I translated it into this. You use universal ingredients. What does it mean with the robot? You use universal motors, universal parts that are easy to get from online or somewhere else. Of course, in some countries it might be more difficult to get certain components, but just try to really use standard things that you can easily find online, and that make it more easy to replicate. Then you have, they are free to copy and remix. So it's basically like, that should be like the idea, that more people can make them by themselves without really necessary. And the most important is like, there's a community around. So like, there's interaction. Some people is like, oh, for example, here you guys created a laser cut auto with arms. So like, there's like a complete loop of like new creations or like improvement, and then the project continues evolving always. So, and why we make it open source? Because we also saw like, together with this part of like more people needed to learn, then we saw that by making it open source, more people can have access to this and build robots. And so far, since 3 years ago, the Auto Builder community, like the ones that are registered on Facebook, 3,000 members, and we have this very interesting map that people put a pin when they make a robot, and then we have from all over the world, basically 65 countries we have registered so far. I think there's more now because this is from like March, but yeah. So another reason why we're open source is because we allow people to collaborate from different parts of the world. I mean, today I'm interacting with somebody from UK that makes this nice code for auto. The other day I'm interacting with someone from China, which has like a new component that can improve auto. And then the community is this international collaboration, which also make it quite interesting, like in a human way. And the result from all this collaboration around the world is like we started to see that more people were making their own versions of the robots, and that was pretty cool. And we're like, well, let's put them together in one place. And when I started, actually, because as Otto, I created inspired of this robot, so it's not like I created like the very first robot. What I saw as an opportunity is that there was no community. The cables were all around, and me as an industrial designer, I'm like, no, let's put the cables inside. So like people, when they see this, they're, oh, it's so cute, and they feel that they can make it. When you show them something with cables, people get scared. It's like, where does these cables go? Well, once they open Auto, they also get scared because there's a lot of cables inside. And then there was a Spanish company. They created this very first biped robot commercial, it's Zoe. But they made it open source, and actually I can say 60 or 70% of the code in Auto is based on this one. So I kind of like put the pieces together. I was like, well, this one is quite cheap, this one is commercial, but it has a very good code. I think that there's an opportunity to create Auto there. I actually created this one first with bigger servos, and I was like, nah, I think it's too expensive, and then make this one, and people love it. I mean, I put it online, all the resources, all the code, the 3D files, and the community start to grow, and then people start to make their own versions. People start to add LED matrix. Some people made like a T with legs, and this one also with like some sort of LCD eyes, a phone. So you put the phone and then you walk around. And now, so this was the previous one was the first year. Now after 3 years, we have more than 55, like at least the ones that are online, of autos, remixes as we call it. So you have this one, which is right there actually, microbit. This one, which is based on the microbit. We have some 3D print accessories. So like people, oh, it's Halloween, let's do something cool, and they make auto like for Halloween. Then you have that one there, the laser cut from Slovakia, right? Here it's here but without the arms. So like you guys added some arms. I was talking with Paul, you guys also made an interesting code. So like it's like putting all the pieces together and making this like family of robots. We make this quadruped from. So it's not only like the appearance, it's also like functionality or even the code inside. So like we try to collaborate. Now it's really difficult to handle all this information, but we have now one place to like integrate everything into projects. So what can you do with Auto? So it's not about what you can do, it's about what you want to do. So now, since the beginning of getting into Auto is you learn the technical part, and then you start to be like thinking in that creative way to create robots like the ones I show you. So you learn to build, then you build to like learn other stuff. So you can learn design, you can learn more complicated robotics, you can learn how to like add more servos into the robot so that it has more articulations. So first you learn the basic, and then you expand into more knowledge. And these are the areas that I mentioned before, and why it's very good to learn with Auto, because you learn the mechanics of the components that are together, the articulations and then the mechanisms, the electronics, the programming, which this one is like, actually we call this advanced, which is only Arduino, but because we also try to encourage to early ages, like 7 years old, like also like the block programming and more graphical, and then design, which from my background I actually think is the most important, because that's when you actually can have more potential and be an active innovator of the robots. If you only do the first three, then you just like replicate, which is still good for the learning especially. But we always try to encourage people to use the other side of the brain, you know, like to be creative, to not only the appearance, as I say, but like you can imagine different things, different functionalities, and then train more that side, because that's what it makes us different from machines. Like you can teach the other three stuff for machines, but you cannot really think a machine to be creative. I mean, maybe some basic stuff like with those algorithmic generators, but not like really to be in this type of thinking. Okay, so what can Auto do? So like connected to the design part is like to let the children choose what to do. It's not like you have this set of parts and you build Auto. Okay, yes, that's fine, but like what else do you want to do? So for example, there was this girl that she loves this Japanese character, Doraemon. I don't know if you guys know. And then like, oh, I wanted to look like Doraemon, and then yeah, sure. I mean, because that's why we make the shape very simple, so like they are more flexible to add stuff. So it's more than just a robot. So like that's why we always encourage people to build. Many people is like, oh, I want just the robot ready, and so like I can play with that. And then that's the main difference from the commercial robots or the toys. Like kids just buy it and then half an hour play and then it's in the shelf. So like what we try to encourage is this learning and this building, because when you build, then you really own it, and you really preserve it, you repair it, right? So it's also like some sort of environmental idea. And connected to that, this is a very good example, because you saw the kid, he built a robot and then he was going to bed. And then he was like, oh no, but my Auto feels cold, so I'm gonna put a little blanket on it. So like you can really see how this, how it creates this emotional attachment once the kid it gets into the building, or someone older, of course. This is not only for children, which is something that I like to clarify. Many people ask me, oh, is this only for kids? No, but actually most of the people that build it is older, so we try to make it like a universal robot. Any age, you know. So the invitation here is like you can also build your own Auto, and actually we're encouraging a lot this creativity by launching this Auto Remix Challenge. So what is the Auto Remix Challenge? Is basically those 55 you saw is to encourage people to make more, you know, and then of course share in the community, open source, and for that we have some very cool prizes like a 3D printer kit or the builder kits of the different robots we have. So this one, for example, is the builder kit for the second prize. Then you have a more simple one, and then you have this one, which is the humanoid, but the electronic parts, so you 3D print by your own. We are like cooperating with this company called Wikifactory. So basically Wikifactory is where we have all the files now. Before we were having GitHub or Thingiverse, and it was like 3D files here, code here, and then it was a mess. And then then they contact us, and then they have this amazing platform where we have code, 3D files, and even like instruction manuals all in one place, very well organized. Well, for some robots that are remixes is still in progress, but at least you know that it's there, you know, or it's gonna be there. So like we're encouraging these challenges, basically like people to start to get into the open source world, basically like I did with Auto, and to encourage more people into this process. Documentation, which is actually very connected to what people do in a thesis or something, So I hope you guys participate. Thank you. Any question? Before I finish, I have this. This is our latest auto. So as you can see, it doesn't have the ultrasound, but it's because we were trying to have a more emotional approach. So it has a LED matrix for the eyes, and then it's kind of like to express more emotions, because with humanoid we had it in the mouth and it couldn't show smiles, but this one then it can have a little bit more life. And we're thinking to have more autos, because it's not like auto and then change for a new one. No, it's like having a family of robots. And it also has a touch sensor here. So if I hold it for very long, it's gonna show the love signs, hopefully. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So it's kind of have some more of interaction with the robot. And yeah, we are constantly trying to do new ones. So to finish also a little bit about my story. So product design, then I was gonna have an internship. So I got an internship in Shanghai, in China. I went to work for an inflatable company, basically designing toys. I finished the internship, and then I went back to Colombia, finished my studies, and 2 years after, they called me back to move there. And I was there 5 years. So last year was my last year in China. I quit the company and I started to dedicate full time to all this project. I moved to Czech Republic, as Andrew said. I live in Olomouc now with my wife. 1 year we have been married, and yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very surprised that actually the maker community here is very strong. I was a little bit skeptic, to be honest, at least from this center of Europe area, even Czech Republic, because I was seeing more activity in Spain, Italy, and yeah, France, that side. But now I'm very happy because I have seen a lot of response, and I hope to connect with everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For presentation. Myslím, že máme ešte dosť veľa otázok a teda máte šancu ich položiť kľudne aj v slovenskom jazyku, my to preložíme. Je ovšem teda, keby niekto chcel ísť, tak ešte upozorňujem, že kto je v Fabave prvýkrát, tak Jožo Váško ho môže previesť a ukázať mu, čo sa tu dá robiť. Takú exkurziu určite mu rád poskytne. A zase, kto by chcel ísť, tak informácia o tom ďalšom seminári, ktorý bude o mesiac, teda prvú stredu v októbri, tak príde nám z lokálnej firmy, ktorá sa zaoberala adaptáciou jedného čínskeho humanoidného robota na európske podmienky. O ňom niečo povedať a teda aj by ho mal doniesť sem v Metke. Takže uvidíme, určite to bude zaujímavé, takže kto chce, tak o mesiac. A teraz ešte určite je tu nejaký čas, teda je priestor na otázky, dokonca dosť veľký časový priestor máme, a potom aj individuálne bude určite k dispozícii chvíľu Camilo a môžete sa s ním pobaviť robotovi alebo aj o čomkoľvek inom z robotiky. Takže ak má niekto otázku,
I would like to see